if you are earning an extra buck through a side hustle, maybe you like to refinish furniture and sell it on Etsy. Maybe you're like this artsy, craftsy kind of guy, kind of person, and it's just a fun way to make some money on the side. Well, the IRS is now targeting you to ensure that you pay your taxes. And while this is happening, let's just be abundantly clear that the very individuals who have gotten away with paying almost no taxes, the millionaires and billionaires in this country, will continue to do so because there has not been a passage of a wealth tax. There has not been an increase in the corporate tax. There has not been an increase on any type of tax that would impact the wealthy and privileged. But we do need to make sure that we go after those damn Etsy vendors because they could be making more than $600 a year from their side hustle, and that's unacceptable. Now, starting this month, users selling goods and services through such popular sites as Venmo, Etsy, and Airbnb will begin receiving tax forms if they take a payment of more than $600. The threshold used to be much higher. So apps, marketplaces, and payment providers have long had to report certain payments to the Internal Revenue Service for any user that collected more than 200 transactions that totaled more than $20,000 in value in a given year. So that threshold of $20,000 for your side hustle has now been lowered to $600. So listen, I believe everyone should pay their fair share in taxes. But the fact that the attention right now is being focused on independent vendors on Etsy and Venmo, while the rich still fail to pay their fair share in taxes, is beyond maddening. And by the way, this is also in the context of lawmakers incessantly talking about how much they love and support small businesses. Oh, small businesses, it's the heart of the country. It's the heart of the country. When we're talking about these independent vendors, I mean, you can't get smaller than that. These are literally people who are making extra money through a side hustle, through something creative, something that they can offer in the form of a product. With the case of Airbnb, of course, they're literally renting out their home. Airbnb, I don't have as much, just keeping it real, I don't have as much sympathy for, but really you're gonna target grandma for selling her beautiful beaded necklaces on Etsy? Like that's where you're gonna collect the tax revenue? Let me give you more. Well, this is obviously sparked some outrage on social media sites. In fact, one tax attorney said this: maybe it's a boon to the IRS, but it's not coming from the billionaires, it's coming from the smaller businesses. It's much harder to go after billionaires. It's much harder to go after Amazon. If you have someone who makes a mistake, a small business, it's very easy to go after them. And by the way, this is not the bug, this is the feature. This is very much intentional, and it is the result of GOP lawmakers succeeding in cutting funding to the IRS. Because let's keep it real, it's very easy to go after an independent vendor on Etsy to ensure that that person is paying taxes on whatever they're making. It's a lot harder to do an audit, for instance, on some billionaire who's dodging his or her taxes through a complicated, system, whether it's shell corporations, tax shelters. There's all sorts of complicated stuff. It takes more resources to audit that individual. And so corrupt lawmakers who have been bribed by corporate interests have made sure that the IRS is toothless when it comes to the real tax dodgers in this country. And the real tax dodgers in this country, by the way, have been doing real well during the pandemic. Why don't we take a quick look at this fairly recent headline from Americans for Tax Fairness. US billionaires' wealth surged by 70% or $2.1 trillion during the pandemic. They are now worth a combined $5 trillion. And when you look at the percentage of their wealth that gets taxed compared to what grandma gets taxed on Etsy, and by the way, I apologize for the stereotype. It's just there's a lot of great vendors that I love on Etsy and they happen to be grandmas. It's maddening. It's maddening to know that right now the focus is on this, on people making a couple $100 on these platforms. And by the way, to add insult to injury, this is what really got me. The new $600 threshold arrived last year as part of the American Rescue Plan, which the White House billed as a way to provide relief to small businesses hit hard by the pandemic. How laughable is that? The lower threshold also comes as more and more Americans bet on themselves. A record 5.4 million adults applied to form their own business last year, according to the US Census Bureau. And I don't blame them. I mean, we obviously have read the stories, we've heard the stories of all these workers who have decided, I'm gonna reprioritize my life, my interests. The Great Resignation occurred, people are leaving their corporate jobs, and they would rather work for themselves. They would rather go after whatever dreams they have, put their creative abilities to use. There's also the case of hairdressers who have decided to leave these salons where they make commission to go work for themselves. They'll do house calls, and the way that they get paid is through Venmo or through PayPal, however they get paid. My point here is we're talking about people who have not really been at this like privileged place in our economic system. In fact, we're talking about people who were really harmed by this pandemic, while the wealthiest people in this country collected another $5 trillion for themselves. I mean, just let that sink in. It just adds insult to injury, and to have this be part of the American Rescue Plan and say that it's all an effort to help small businesses when in reality it's just a way to go after independent vendors on these platforms, it's insulting. And again, couple that with the Biden administration's failure to do anything substantive in ensuring that the rich pay their fair share. How do you look at that administration? How do you look at Congress and really think that they work for you? How do you make an argument that a Democratic administration is really any different substantively from a Republican administration on these types of issues, on economic issues? It's really hard to make that argument. Rhetorically, they might be different. Effectively, substantively, a lot of similarities there.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.